Thank you for joining us for the UCA Gameday score sheet breakdown. Starting with our Gameday overview. The Gameday divisions were added to highlight the incredible leadership skills these athletes perform at football games or in their basketball arena all year long. All teams will perform in the same order. They'll be starting off with a band chant, followed by a situational sideline cued by an announcer. From there, this will move directly into their timeout cheer and finish up with their fight song. There's a 3-minute total time limit. You'll be utilizing two score sheets, a crowd leading and a fight song band chant score sheet. Each score sheet is worth a total of 50 points, and then there'll be a deduction score sheet taken off the top. There are also additional rules and regulations for skills in the Gameday division. As a part of the Gameday division, there are some additional skill restrictions. During the band chant, only jumps and kicks are allowed. During the fight song, teams are allowed to incorporate tumbling and stunts for a maximum of 3 8 counts. This means that if the team dips on one of an 8 count, they must be completely finished with tumbling or stunting by the end of the third 8 count, or the routine must be over. This includes any callbacks following the end of the music if stunting and tumbling are still occurring. While stunting and tumbling are allowed during the crowd leading section and the fight song, there are some additional skill restrictions. There are to be no tosses, no inversions, no twisting release dismounts, and single leg skills are limited to liberties and liberty hitches. There's to be no running tumbling, and for standing tumbling, it's limited to one tumbling skill, and a back tuck is the most elite tumbling skill allowed. Stunts and tumbling are not allowed as a transition before or between sections. This includes as you take the floor before the band chant. Starting with our crowd leading breakdown, our sideline has a specific category worth 5 points called Gameday Situation. This is the proper response to the Gameday situational cue. A designated game situation cue will be given for either offense or a defensive response. Teams will determine which sideline to perform based on the cue from the announcer. Scores will be based on the quick performance and seamless transition to the appropriate cue given. Also on the crowd leading score sheet, but as a part of the cheer section, we have proper use of material and skills relevant to a game day environment. Is the cheer easy for the crowd to understand? Does it encourage crowd response? Does it engage the crowd right away? Was the material performed practical? Are all the movements and stunts used to help increase crowd participation, or are they used for the visual effect? Think about this. Are skills easily performed, or does execution distract from the ability to lead the crowd? The next judging category that appears on both the sideline and the cheer section is crowd effectiveness. Judges will take into account voice, pace, flow, and maximizing crowd coverage. Voices should be loud and clear, building up to the callbacks and not drop during skill incorporations. The pace should be easy to follow and have a consistent tempo from the beginning to the end. The material should be seamless with no abrupt transitions, and teams should spread out to maximize crowd coverage. The next 3 categories on the crowd leading score sheet are included on both the sideline and cheer section, meaning those scores are independent of each other based on how well teams perform during each section. First, we have motion technique and crowd leading tools. For motion technique, we're looking at arm levels and proper motion placement. This includes everyone on the ground and anyone in stunts. For proper use of signs, palms, megaphones, and flags, teams will be scored on how well those props are used to help the crowd respond. Signs and flags should promote crowd involvement, be easy to read, and shown to the crowd early and in time to yell. Palms can help indicate specific colors or times to yell. Megaphones can be used to project your voice to the crowd. As an important note, full credit will not be given just for using all of the props listed, but instead quality over quantity. The next category shared by our sideline and our cheer is execution of skills, looking at proper technique, stability, synchronization, and spacing. Remembering, are they relevant to a true game day environment? Skills should be solid, safe, and 100% performance ready. For proper technique and stability, in stunting we're looking at the top, the base, and spots. We're thinking about general tumbling, keeping in mind that a game day performance, all skills should be stable with no movement. For synchronization and spacing, the timing of the skills performed and formation during those skills performed. Skills that might be practical for one team might not always be practical for another. Our last category on the crowd leading score sheet is the overall impression, worth 10 points. We're looking for teams to lead the crowd effectively, demonstrate spirit-raising antics, exhibit strong athleticism, keep the crowd entertained. And overall, was the routine well executed, which led to a solid and safe performance. Some skill incorporation tips for the crowd leading section. Stunts should be used to make the cheerleaders more visual and better to lead the crowd. Stunts to consider would be preps, extensions, liberties, hitches. Always think to yourself, can they still lead the crowd in the stunt? For tumbling and jumps, think SSS, single synchronized skills. Synchronized is always better and less choreographed to match the response. Running, tumbling, and jump combos are better for performance routines. Teams should incorporate skills that can be performed well. These skills should not inhibit their ability to lead the crowd effectively. Do what you do well and move on. Moving into our fight song and band chant score sheets. The band chant is the first section of the routine, and it's similar to a 30-second timeout at a game. Should have an emphasis on crowd appeal and practicality. Just as a reminder, there's no stunts or tumbling permitted, but jumps and kicks will be allowed. The ending of the routine is going to be our fight song. The fight song can have incorporated stunts and tumbling. It should be practical and easy to follow, but must follow the 8-count restrictions and additional skill restrictions set forth for the game day routines. The fight song and band chant have similar categories that will be scored independently of each other. Teams can score high in one section and lower in another based on their performance. First, we have game day visual appeal. Teams should show a strong demonstration of level changes, ripples, and creative movements. This will also include use of the floor, the flow from the beginning to the end, and should include a variety of formations. Our second category will have different names will be scored in the same way for each section. The band chant will be scored as material relevant to the game day environment, and the fight song will be scored as the effectiveness of incorporation. For each one, ask yourself, was the material practical and relevant? Can this be performed at any time during a game and in any situation? Was the team engaged with the crowd and encouraging participation? For both groups, the skills should be clean, effective, and not a distraction. The next category we have is motion technique and crowd leading tools. We're looking for similar items as we were in the crowd leading section, including motion placement, sharpness, synchronization, technique, timing, spacing, and use of props. Just like during the crowd leading section, more props will not always mean a higher score. Quality over quantity. Our next category for fight song and band chant will be execution. For the band chant section, execution will be based on technique, stability, synchronization, and spacing. During the fight song section, judges will be looking for the execution of skills relevant to the game day environment. They'll be taking in technique, stability, synchronization, and spacing as well, but also looking at the skill technique to see that they're practical skills and the proper technique of those skills performed. Our final category is the overall impression for the fight song and band chant. We'll be looking for energy, leadership, and a connection to the crowd. Did the team have energy and enthusiasm from the beginning to the end, show strong leadership for the crowd, keep the crowd entertained, and lead the crowd effectively? This will also include the transitions between components and how smooth and effective they were. This will conclude the UCA Game Day score sheet breakdown. We look forward to seeing you at a UCA competition. If you have any questions, please send them to ucascoring@varsity.com.